Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I always believed I had built something real, something unshakable. For the last 5 years, my life had been what most men would call a dream. A beautiful wife, a luxurious home, a business that thrived under my leadership. I had worked for everything I owned, rising from a struggling young entrepreneur to a respected name in the industry. When I met Sophia, she was the missing piece I never knew I needed. She had been a breath of fresh air, wildly ambitious, fiercely charming, and breathtakingly beautiful. She had a way of looking at me, as if I were the only person in the world that mattered. I fell for her faster than I ever thought possible. It hadn't mattered that she was struggling when we met. She had big dreams, but little means to reach them. A waitress at a trendy downtown restaurant, she often spoke about wanting more from life, of escaping her small, mundane existence and building something extraordinary. I admired that about her. She told me she wanted to be somebody, and I, being the hopeless romantic I was, vowed to help her achieve that. I proposed to her within a year of dating, convinced that she was the one. We married in a lavish ceremony at an upscale vineyard, the kind she had always dreamed of. I gave her everything, a lifestyle she never had, a social circle she never dreamed of, and the freedom to pursue whatever she wanted. In return, she gave me love. Or at least, that's what I thought it was. The first few years were blissful. Sophia played the part of the perfect wife flawlessly. She attended my business events, dazzling investors with her wit and charm. She stood by my side, always smiling, always supportive. She seemed to adore me, to admire what I had built. Looking back now, I realized that I never questioned why she never truly engaged in my life. She was there, yes, but she was always watching, as if taking notes, absorbing the wealth, the power, the connections. I was blind to it. Over time, subtle cracks began to form. Sophia changed. The once affectionate woman who used to hold my hand under the dinner table now barely touched me. The nights spent laughing and talking turned into silent evenings with her glued to her phone. Her hunger for success seemed to outgrow our marriage. I chalked it up to ambition, assuming she was just focused on building a career. I encouraged her when she said she wanted to start her own business, and I funded it without hesitation. I invested in her dreams the way I wished someone had done for me when I was younger. That was my first mistake. Sophia thrived. With my financial backing, she launched a high-end fashion boutique in the city. It gained traction quickly, not because of her skills, but because of my name. My network, my investors, my clients, they all supported her because of me. I didn't mind. If she succeeded, we both succeeded. That's what marriage was about, right? But somewhere along the way, she stopped needing me. 2 years ago, she stopped wearing her wedding ring. It gets in the way when I'm working. She had laughed it off, waving her manicured fingers in front of me. And besides, rings are so cliché. I should have asked questions. I should have pushed back. Instead, I smiled and nodded like a fool. Then came the business trips, weekends away, first for networking, then for expansion. She began dressing differently, speaking differently, as if she were evolving into someone else entirely. And I, ever the trusting husband, continued to fund her ambitions. Even when my friends began to raise concerns, I dismissed them. Bro, she's barely home. Doesn't that bother you? Does she even talk about the future with you anymore? I saw her at that private event last weekend. Why weren't you there? I brushed it all off, defended her, even when deep down, something inside me was whispering that I was being played. I ignored it, because I loved her. It wasn't until that night, the night that would change everything, that I realized how blind I had been. Sophia came home late, as she often did. She was dressed in an expensive designer dress, one I had never seen before, her hair and makeup still perfectly done. I was waiting for her in the dimly lit living room, a drink in my hand. Long night. I asked, my tone casual. She paused in the doorway, her eyes flickering with something unreadable. Guilt? Annoyance? I wasn't sure. Yeah. Meetings ran over. Meetings. Always meetings. I nodded, swirling the amber liquid in my glass. You smell like expensive perfume. She raised an eyebrow, tossing her handbag onto the couch. I am expensive. A joke. One I might have laughed at once. But I didn't laugh. Instead, I watched her closely, sensing something in the air, something I couldn't name yet. And then, she sighed, rubbing her temple as if I were exhausting her. Look, I'm tired. Let's not do this tonight, okay? She walked past me without another word. And for the first time in 5 years, I felt like a stranger in my own home. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Sophia was asleep beside me, her back turned, as if even in unconsciousness, she wanted to be as far from me as possible. Something had shifted between us. Something had been shifting for years. I just hadn't been willing to see it. But soon, I would. And when I did, the illusion would shatter completely. Because the woman I had built a life with, the woman I had sacrificed for, was about to confess the biggest betrayal of my life. And she had no idea I wouldn't go down without a fight. The moment was supposed to be ordinary, just another conversation between husband and wife. But when she spoke, the words left her mouth like a blade carving straight through my chest. I had just come home early from a business meeting, something that had been happening less frequently. Lately, it seemed like I had more time than she did, like our schedules were intentionally mismatched. The irony was sharp. I used to blame myself for being too busy, but now that I had the time, she was the one who was never there. I found her in the dining room, sipping from a glass of wine, scrolling mindlessly through her phone. She hadn't even heard me come in. Sophia. She didn't jump. She didn't look guilty. Just bored. She glanced up lazily, eyes flicking over me before turning back to her screen. You're home early. I sat across from her, studying her face. Something in me already knew where this was going, but I had to hear her say it. We need to talk. Her expression didn't change. She took another slow sip of wine before setting the glass down with a deliberate clink. About what? The casual dismissal in her voice was deafening. It was like she had already decided the conversation was pointless. About us. About everything you've been doing. That finally got a reaction. Her lips curled slightly, her fingers tapping against the stem of her glass. Amused. You're going to have to be more specific, she said, voice dripping with false patience. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to remain calm. I know, Sophia. I know about your lies. About the real reason you married me. Something flickered in her eyes, not guilt, not fear, but a strange kind of amusement, as if she had been waiting for this moment. She sighed dramatically, pushing her chair back slightly, stretching as though this whole conversation was just an inconvenience to her. You're making this sound more dramatic than it needs to be. She leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand, and smirked. What exactly do you think you know? There it was. The challenge. The unspoken dare. I swallowed the fire burning in my chest, keeping my voice steady. That you never loved me. That I was just a means to an end. A step up. She didn't deny it. Instead, she laughed. Soft at first, then shaking her head like I had just told the most ridiculous joke in the world. Oh, come on, she said, rolling her eyes. You say that like it's some kind of grand revelation. Her words made my stomach turn. I had hoped, even at that moment, that she would deny it, that she would try to salvage the illusion, that she would lie just to keep the game going a little longer. But she was done pretending. She leaned back, twirling the wine glass between her fingers, eyes gleaming with something dark. I knew you'd figure it out eventually, she said with a smirk. But I always thought you'd be too pathetic to confront me about it. The air in the room turned suffocating. I gripped the arms of my chair so hard my knuckles went white. So it was all fake? She tilted her head, pretending to think about it. Fake? No. It was useful. I stared at her, unable to recognize the woman in front of me. The woman I had built a life with, the woman I had once worshipped, was unapologetic. What the hell is wrong with you? My voice was quieter than I expected. She sighed as if she were exhausted by my stupidity. Look, she said, her tone eerily casual, I wanted a better life. You gave me one. That's what this was. A transaction. I felt my entire body go cold. She shrugged. I mean, you can't really blame me. You threw everything at me. You wanted to play savior, and I let you. Did you ever stop to think about why I fell for you so quickly? I felt my chest tighten. Because you made it so easy, she continued, grinning. All I had to do was play the role, and you practically handed me the life I wanted on a silver platter. My pulse pounded in my ears. You used me. She gave a slow, mocking clap. Ding, ding, ding. You finally get it. There was no remorse in her voice. No hesitation. Just cold, smug triumph. I stared at her, struggling to understand how I had been so blind. I had loved this woman. I had given her everything. And now, she was taunting me for it. I clenched my fists under the table. So what now? You got what you wanted. What's next? She laughed softly, tilting her head. Now. She exhaled, feigning sympathy. Now, I move on. You served your purpose, and I'm done. The sheer audacity of her words made my skin crawl. She stood up, walking around the table slowly, trailing a manicured finger across the wood. I was going to make this easy on you, you know. She came to a stop behind me, leaning down to whisper, but you just had to drag it out. I closed my eyes, gripping the chair so hard I thought it would snap. She kissed the top of my head, mocking me, before walking toward the doorway. She thought she had one. She thought she could just walk away, that she could shatter me and move on without consequence. And for a moment, she almost did. But then I remembered the phone call. The one I had prepared just in case. She was about to learn the hard way that I wasn't as pathetic as she thought. I took my phone out of my pocket, dialed the number, and pressed call. Her phone buzzed in her bag. She glanced at it, rolled her eyes, and sighed impatiently. I don't have time for this. I smiled. You might want to answer that. She hesitated, then picked up, putting the call on speaker. Hello. The voice on the other end wasn't mine. Mrs. Carter? This is Detective Harris with the Financial Crimes Unit. We need to discuss some urgent matters regarding your accounts and legal documents. We highly suggest you don't leave town. Sophia's face drained of color. I leaned back in my chair, watching as her arrogance cracked for the first time. She swallowed hard, gripping the edge of the table. What? I took another sip of my drink and smirked. Looks like your transaction is about to get a little more complicated. She had spent years playing the game. She thought she had won. But this was checkmate. The room felt different now. A few minutes ago, Sophia was in control, or at least, she thought she was. She had laughed, taunted me, confessed to using me like I was nothing. But that single phone call had changed everything. She gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white, her eyes darting between me and her phone screen. Detective Harris, was it? She asked, her voice strained but trying to sound composed. The detective didn't miss a beat. Yes, Mrs. Carter. I'd prefer to have this discussion in person, but I can summarize for you now. Our office has been investigating fraudulent financial activity linked to several accounts under your name. Sophia's face turned pale. I leaned back in my chair, sipping my drink, watching her unravel. What accounts? She said, her voice faltering. There was silence on the line for a moment, then the detective continued. We have reason to believe that multiple transfers were made using falsified documentation, including forged signatures. We'll need you to come in for questioning. Sophia's breathing turned shallow. She turned to me, pure rage flashing across her face. You set me up, she hissed, barely above a whisper. I smiled, taking my time before answering. No, darling. You set yourself up. I just made sure someone was watching. Her fingers tightened around her phone. You're bluffing. There's no way. Mrs. Carter, the detective interrupted, his tone growing sharper. We strongly advise that you do not attempt to leave the city. If you fail to cooperate, a warrant will be issued for your arrest. Sophia sucked in a sharp breath. This is a mistake. The evidence says otherwise. A beat of silence stretched between us, thick with tension. Then, like a switch, she snapped. She slammed her phone onto the table, barely missing her wine glass. You think this is funny? She spat. I let out a low chuckle. Oh, I think it's poetic. You thought you were playing me, Sophia. Turns out, you were just digging your own grave. She took a step toward me, her hands clenched into fists. You had me investigated? I tilted my head. More like I started paying attention. See, I might have been blind for a while, but once I saw the truth, I didn't stop looking. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, her anger barely contained. I don't know what you think you found, she said, trying to regain control. But whatever it is, you won't get away with this. I smirked. Oh, but you did, right? You got away with using me, lying to me, draining my accounts. I stood up, stepping closer to her. What was the plan, Sophia? Bleed me dry and move on to the next fool? She flinched, but her pride wouldn't let her show weakness. You don't have proof, she snapped. I laughed, really laughed. Oh, I have plenty of proof. She froze. I walked over to my desk, picking up a sleek black folder and tossing it onto the table. Go ahead. Take a look. For the first time in this entire twisted game, Sophia hesitated. I watched as she slowly reached for the folder, flipping it open with shaking hands. The first page was a printout of a bank statement, one of my accounts. The account that had mysteriously started draining over the last year. Sophia's breath hitched. The next page? A list of transactions leading to an offshore account. Under her name. She turned the page again, her fingers trembling. That one had pictures. Candid shots of her at high-end restaurants, laughing with a man in a tailored suit. holding hands with him, whispering in his ear. Her lover. The man she had been planning to leave me for. I took a slow step forward, watching her reaction. Still think I don't have proof? She snapped the folder shut, her entire body trembling. This doesn't mean anything, she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. I leaned in. It means everything, Sophia. It means you're a fraud. A liar. And now, I gestured to the phone. You're a suspect in an ongoing financial crimes case. She shook her head violently, pacing the room like a caged animal. This wasn't supposed to happen, she muttered. This wasn't supposed to happen. I folded my arms, watching her. You really thought you'd just walk away, didn't you? She spun to face me, her expression contorted with anger. You bastard, she seethed. I shrugged. That's funny. I seem to recall you being the one who just admitted to using me. She pointed a shaking finger at me. I will ruin you for this. I let out a slow breath, nodding toward her phone. Yeah? You might want to focus on not ruining yourself first. Her phone buzzed again. Another call. She didn't answer this time, but I could see the war waging behind her eyes. Panic. Desperation. And then, for the first time, real fear. She licked her lips, swallowing hard. What exactly do they know? I stepped closer, just enough to loom over her. Enough to freeze your assets. Enough to make sure your little escape plan doesn't work. Her pupils dilated. My assets. I smirked. Oh, you didn't think I knew about that, did you? She backed away, gripping the edge of the table. No, that's impossible. Not really. I shrugged. See, the moment I realized what you were doing, I started moving money. My money. And you? Well, let's just say you won't have access to your accounts anymore. Sophia's breath hitched. You can't do that. I gave her a look. You really think I can't? Her mouth opened, then closed. She staggered backward, hands trembling, finally grasping the weight of what had just happened. Her perfect plan had crumbled before her eyes. The money she thought she had stolen? Gone. Her clean exit? Blocked. Her entire life, built on deception and greed, collapsing all at once. She pressed a shaking hand to her forehead, visibly unraveling. This isn't real. This isn't happening. I sighed, shaking my head. Oh, it's real, Sophia. And it's happening. She turned toward me, her face pale. Please, she whispered. I raised an eyebrow. Please what? She swallowed, all traces of arrogance finally gone. You can fix this, right? I smiled. Now she was begging. I tilted my head, pretending to think about it. Why would I do that? Tears filled her eyes. Because, she licked her lips, because you loved me. I stared at her for a long moment. Then, without a word, I picked up my drink, took a slow sip, and turned toward the door. I left her standing there, drowning in her own downfall. Because she was right. I had loved her. But now? Now, I was just enjoying the view as she watched everything she had built on lies come crashing down. The silence behind me was deafening. I could still feel her eyes burning into my back as I walked out of the room. The woman who, just minutes ago, had smirked at me like I was nothing, was now standing frozen in fear. She had thought she was untouchable. She had believed she could control everything, me, my money, her future. But she had severely underestimated me. I had seen this moment coming for months, and I had planned for it. Sophia had spent years mastering the art of deception, but she had never expected to be outplayed. The moment I stepped into my office, I heard it, her footsteps pounding behind me. Wait. I didn't turn around. I let her catch up, let her feel the weight of everything crumbling around her. Wait, please, she said again, her voice shaking now. We can talk about this. I finally turned to face her, meeting her wide, desperate eyes. You want to talk? I asked, leaning against my desk. Funny, because a few minutes ago, you made it pretty damn clear what you thought of me. She licked her lips, struggling to find the right words. I didn't mean it like that. I laughed, shaking my head. Oh no, don't do that. Don't walk it back now. You were very clear, Sophia. I was your ticket to a better life, right? A stepping stone. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she tried another approach. Look, I get that you're mad, she said, forcing a breathless chuckle, as if this was just a minor argument. I said some things I shouldn't have, but I held up a hand, cutting her off. Save it. Her smile faltered. You don't get to manipulate your way out of this one, I continued. Not with charm, not with apologies, and sure as hell not with lies. The mask she had worn for so many years was slipping fast, and for the first time, I saw panic. You can fix this, though, she blurted, her voice almost pleading now. The money, the investigation, you can make it all go away. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, and why would I do that? Her lips parted, but no words came out. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You used me. You stole from me. You lied to my face for years. Give me one good reason why I should lift a damn finger to help you. She swallowed hard. And then, she made her biggest mistake yet. If you don't, she said, straightening her shoulders, trying to regain control, then you'll go down with me. I blinked. And then I laughed. A deep, genuine, almost pitying laugh. She still thought she had leverage. She still thought she could bluff her way out. I shook my head, exhaling. Oh, Sophia. You really don't get it, do you? Her nostrils flared. What do you mean? I turned, walking to my desk, and picked up another file. This one was thicker. I tossed it onto the desk and gestured for her to look. She hesitated, then slowly reached for it. The moment she flipped it open, her entire body went stiff. I covered my tracks, I said, watching as she skimmed page after page of documents, legal reports, statements, clear evidence that all the fraud she thought she had hidden was now exposed. You, on the other hand? Not so much. Her breathing grew erratic. No, this is fake. You're setting me up. I tilted my head. Am I? I leaned in closer, lowering my voice. Who do you think they're coming for, Sophia? The man whose accounts were stolen from? Or the woman who signed the fraudulent documents? Her lips parted, her pupils dilated, and for the first time, I saw it, real, raw terror. She tried one last time. She reached for my hand, her fingers shaking. Please, she whispered. We can work this out. We were happy once, weren't we? I stared at her hand on mine. And then, I pulled away. We weren't happy, I said simply. I was. You were just waiting for the right moment to leave. Her eyes glistened with something close to tears, but I didn't buy it. I had seen the real Sophia. She had only one priority, herself. A loud knock at the door made her flinch. Her head snapped toward the sound, her entire body locking up as my lawyer stepped inside. Sir, he said, glancing between us, they're here. Sophia's breath hitched. I nodded, taking another slow sip of my drink. Perfect timing. I turned to her. Show's over, sweetheart. The color drained from her face. Then the footsteps echoed down the hall. Heavy. Authoritative. She turned to run, but it was too late. The moment she reached the doorway, she came face to face with two officers. Mrs. Carter? One of them said. She turned, looking at me, pleading with her eyes. I just smirked. I hope it was worth it. Then, the officers stepped forward. And just like that, Sophia's perfect little world came crashing down. The moment her wrists were clasped in steel, a sound I had longed to hear for months, Sophia finally broke. No, this is a mistake, she shrieked, twisting against the officer's grip, her face wild with desperation. You don't understand. My husband, he set me up. I leaned back against my desk, arms crossed, watching her with quiet amusement. I thought I was just your ticket to a better life, Sophia, I said, tilting my head. Why do you need my help now? Her frantic eyes locked onto mine, searching, begging. The arrogance, the smug confidence, the cruel amusement she had just minutes ago? Gone. In its place was pure, undiluted fear. Please, she gasped, her voice trembling. You don't have to do this. I can fix this. We can fix this. I smirked. Fix what? Your fraud? The fact that you stole from me? Or the part where you used me like a disposable tool? Tears welled in her eyes, but I knew better than to believe they were real. The officers began guiding her toward the door, but she fought them, thrashing in their grip. No, please, just listen to me. I stayed silent. Let her plead. Let her beg. Because that's all it was. A desperate last-ditch effort to control the situation. You're making a mistake, she screamed as they pulled her toward the hallway. I swear, I'll ruin you for this. Do you hear me? I'll take you down with me. I chuckled, shaking my head. Sophia, I called out just as she was dragged to the door. She whipped her head around, clinging to the last shred of hope that I might stop this. I gave her a small, satisfied smile. You already lost. Her face contorted with rage, her lips curling like a wounded animal's. Then, just like that, she was going a hauled away like the con artist she was. The aftermath. The house felt quieter after she was gone. Lighter. It took less than a week for the full collapse of Sophia's carefully constructed perfect life. Her fraudulent transactions? Exposed. Her offshore accounts? Frozen. Her business empire that she built on my money? Dismantled. She didn't even have enough left to afford a decent lawyer. When the court hearings began, I didn't even need to be there. My lawyer handled everything, ensuring every last dime she had stolen was recovered. In the end, Sophia took the only deal she could get, a plea bargain that kept her out of prison but left her with nothing. She lost everything. Her money, her status, her future. And I walked away with everything intact. One last conversation. 2 months later, I was sitting in my office when my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. Then, a voicemail popped up. Curious, I played it. A familiar voice, shaky, broken, desperate. Please. Just pick up. I don't know where else to go. A sharp breath, almost a sob. I get it now. I get everything. I was stupid. I was blind. I ruined everything. But you don't have to punish me like this. A long pause. Then, barely above a whisper, I loved you once. Please believe that. I stared at my phone for a long moment. Then I deleted the message. And just like that, Sophia was nothing more than a bad memory. Game over.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.